Steins Gate, an anime that is generally viewed as fantastic and which I also happen to think is great. An exploration of one of my favorite protagonists. A time travel story that uses time travel to create a compelling narrative structure that I have not yet seen in any other work of fiction. An advertisement for Dr. Pepper. However, in spite of all these wonderful things, one consistent complaint with the show is that it takes a long time to get going, that its first half is nowhere near the quality of its second half. Often, these first 12 episodes are simply discussed as something the viewer needs to watch so they can get to the good stuff, but that's not the case here. In fact, I think the first half of Steins Gate is almost as good as, if not just as good as, its second half. So, what makes the first half of Steins Gate great? Well, let's start with the show's opening scene, which establishes the show's tone in an interesting way. Dutch angles, a clock ticking, birds chirping, washed out lighting, shots that, although thematically relevant, only vaguely connect to what Okabe is saying. Without any previous knowledge of this series, this combination of all these elements seems pretentious. However, once we find out that Okabe is a weirdo, this moment is funny instead of self-serious. Or rather, it's only self-serious because it reflects its strange protagonist's strange mindset. This scene is indicative of one of the show's greatest strengths, its ability to shift tones. There are a number of different types of tone changes in Steins Gate: retroactive tone shifts, moment-to-moment tone shifts, and the change in tone across episodes. This first scene is an example of a retroactive tone shift, where we think that one thing is being communicated to us but really something else is, but we have no way of knowing that until later on. Meanwhile, moment-to-moment shifts occur whenever the show jumps from silly banter between characters to serious breakthroughs with the time machine or, gel people. As the episodes continue, more and more of these moment-to-moment shifts occur, ramping up to an ultimate shift in tone that will affect the show's entire second half. All of these shifts are from silly to serious or vice versa, and there are two major ways that Steins Gate manages to stop these shifts from feeling awkward. First is its music, or its lack of music. Where many shows punctuate its characters' banter with kooky tracks, Steins Gate often opts for a removal of non-diegetic sounds. In other words, a removal of all the sounds that are not being produced within the show's world itself. Because of this, the characters' actions are often allowed to speak for themselves. Basically, there's no music here encouraging us to feel a certain emotion, or to view the scene in a certain light. This leaves more room for the audience to interpret for themselves. In addition, this lack of music is awkward in a way that fits the characters' personalities, but also in a way that is kind of unnerving. As stated in Daniela Kulizik-Wilson's article, The Music of Film Silence, because the silent tension that might exist between characters or in a scene could seem too real or too uncomfortable, music is there to help the audience cope with an unpleasant situation or remind them that it's only fantasy. When that reminder is pulled away, the tension within the fiction can be amplified by a level of relatability that the use of music nullifies. After all, we're likely to hear birds chirping as we talk with a friend. We aren't likely to hear a badass soundtrack. Of course, this use of music allows the show to indulge in a lot of goofy moments while still simultaneously preparing the audience for the overall more serious second half. The second reason these tone shifts work is, well, Okabe, as the show's overall tone works as a reflection of his mindset. He's a wacky dude and one who changes his demeanor quickly. Although he purposely acts in a deluded manner, he is able to still see beyond those delusions, and twists them so that he can help his friends, like how he takes on an authoritative role when discussing Kirisu's family matters, proclaiming that he will bring her and her father closer together. Because of this, the show's first 12 episodes seem like a delusion, or at the least, a game. Although it should be clear that this is going to go horribly wrong as soon as they discover CERN's research. It doesn't take on that dramatic weight because Okabe's perspective constantly lends the show a level of absurdism and comedy that is contrary to a plot wherein characters' actions will have serious consequences. Sometimes actions that seem absurd, and what Okabe himself even believes is absurd, have a level of truth in retrospect. For example, many of the times when Okabe talks into his cell phone proclaiming that the organization is spying on him, he is in fact correct. Basically, because Steins Gate is so firmly couched in Okabe's perspective, the line between reality and fiction is blurry, and that blurriness allows the show to build up to a dark midpoint without it becoming obvious that something this horrible will happen. However, I do have one problem with his character. Why the hell does he have to steal Mayuri's bananas? And why is he microwaving them? Do people microwave bananas? I mean, I get that it's for an experiment. I get that part of it. But just the idea of putting a banana in a microwave disgusts me. Who does that? Is that normal to do? Maybe I'm weird, because I've never done that. That seems really odd to me. Anyway, banana or no banana, his unique mental state also helps normalize other characters' mental states. This is especially the case with Moika. Of course, she's still one sketchy lady, but if Okabe wasn't a self-proclaimed mad scientist, her personality and interest in the IBN 5100 would have been much more concerning. As it stands, although I thought she was going to be bad news at some point, I didn't think that she was going to become the show's primary antagonist for a large number of episodes. The goofiness of Okabe's mindset and the often wacky tone of the show make it so that when Okabe lets Moika into the lab, his actions seem a lot less stupid than they otherwise would. That is to say that actions that could seem insufferably idiotic instead seem to stem from a place of confusion and disbelief. I mean, you can't really blame him when he made a time machine out of a microwave accidentally, but still, letting her into the group, letting her see the IBN 5100 and letting her send a D-mail is one of Okabe's biggest mistakes. And her obsession with FB should have been a clear enough clue that... Wait a minute. FB. 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 No, it can't be. No. Can't be. This can't be. No, that can't be right. Since we're already here, I might as well discuss the other major topic of this video. The characters. The second big reason that I think the first half of Steins Gate is really, really good. They are, of course, the source of the show's comedy in its first half and the source of its tragedy in its second half. They are the reason this whole crazy plot can work, and even if the show is a battle against time, it is more importantly a battle to save one's friends. Without the character interactions in the first 12 episodes, without their overall lighthearted banter and quirky dynamic, the show's structure would collapse in on itself. Basically, without these episodes, Okabe's quest to save Mayuri would feel disingenuous or, at the least, manufactured. Instead, we have seen Okabe's time with his friends. We have seen how much he cares for them and how he's grown close to them, and we've watched him, in some manner, give each of them something that they really, really want. So it makes sense that he would be willing to suffer again and again to save one of them. Mayuri is not a complex or unique character. With her, it's especially important to consider that a discussion of a character should rarely, if ever, be about the character on their own. Instead, the focus should be placed on their interactions with other characters in the story, and specifically on their relationship with the protagonist. After all, she's the reason that Okabe took on this weird mad scientist persona in the first place, and, by extension, the only reason that the microwave ever ended up existing. Without her, the tool that leads to her death never could have existed, as Okabe never would have had a reason to accidentally create it in the first place. In addition, she takes up the fairly typical anime role of a sweet, innocent female character that's also kind of special, which works because everything about her is designed so that a viewer, male or female, probably won't want her to die. While her tuturu and cosplay and cute design are all a part of this, I think the largest aspect of her character that allows for this is her understanding of the other lab members. At many points in the show, it's stated that she has the clearest understanding of the group's dynamic and also that she is the only reason that the group sticks together at all. This is especially the case with Kirisu and Suzu. All of this is to say that she is the glue that holds Okabe's world together, and the reason that he created this lab and that he plays this part of a mad scientist in the first place. In this way, her death is also the death of the group. Because of this, her death works as a perfect narrative midpoint in the series, as a perfect change of stakes and focus. The show is no longer about creating a machine that could change the world. Instead, it's about returning to the status quo, about recovering what is lost and making a delusion that turned into a reality turn back into a delusion. Without the development of her character and of the group, all of this would be lost. And the entire second portion of the show would simply not have the same level of stakes or meaning. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you to all of my patrons over at patreon.com. Your support over there helps me to make these videos. It makes them possible, and it makes it possible for me to get them out on a weekly basis. Overall, though, I just look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye-bye.